All right, Ravatai, Rosh Yeshiva, Rebbeim, teachers, students, supporters of Chappelle's Darchei Noam and Midrash Rachel V'Chaya. I want to thank you all very, very much for coming tonight. We are here for two very, very important things, both of which are completely intertwined. On the one hand, it's a celebratory gala, 40 years of the yeshiva in operation, Limud Torah, Harbatzas Torah, and the impact that yeshiva has had on so many people in this room and even those not here. There is no real simcha that can match the kind of simcha that we can have by taking stock of those 40 years and appreciating the goodness that has been brought into the world through the efforts of the yeshiva and through the participation of the students and the supporters. At the same time, we are here to honor Rabbi HIrshfeld, who I can safely say has been at the center of all of those efforts for those 40 years, unceasingly. I am tempted to say a lot of great things about Rabbi HIrshfeld, but Rabbi Karlinsky told me that was his job, and who might argue? I will say, a regular person gets a job, works for 40 years, what do they get at the end of that 40 years? Maybe they get a gold watch, maybe they get a pension, maybe they get a little going-away party. With humility and respect, I suggest probably Rabbi HIrshfeld is not interested in those things. Maybe the pension wouldn't be so bad. Okay. But at the same time, what can you really do for a man who has spent 40 years of his life with unending dedication to the mission, to Limud Torah and Harbatzas Torah? How much divrei bracha, testimonials, videos, presentations, whatever else you might give, how can it come anywhere close to really being what such an effort deserves? The answer is, of course, it cannot. So what can even come close? What can even be in the parsha? So I would suggest that when a person has dedicated their life, as the Pirkei Avos says, Ha'midu Talmidim Harbei, the only thing that can really capture that effort is the Talmidim themselves, and the students, and the friends, and the supporters, and the fellow Rebbeim, and the fellow Rosh Yeshiva who have worked side by side with Rabbi HIrshfeld and who have benefited from his wisdom and his derech and limud Torah and his warmth, and in particular, if I may add a personal note, his absolute, complete unwillingness to become flappable no matter what's going on around him. And everybody who knows him, I think, knows exactly what I'm talking about. So since I am not capable of giving any kind of divrei bracha along those lines, I am pleased to introduce Rabbi Karlinsky. I myself met Rabbi in 1981. I was all of 19 years old. I don't think he really had ever seen somebody age 19 before, as far as I can tell. I'm not sure how happy he was to find out that somebody like that was in the yeshiva, but okay. And what I want to tell you, and anybody who's learned in Rav Shaya Shir, anybody who's had close contact with Rav Shaya has had this experience, learning with Rav Shaya, trying to grasp his derech, was completely transformational for me personally and for literally every other person I know who learned with Rav Shaya. Guy, I'm privileged now to come back to the yeshiva Chodesh Elul for several years now. And every one of the Talmidim that I talk to, and I talk to them at lunch, and I talk to them after breakfast and this and that, they all say, well, I'm here, I'm in this year, but I think I'm going to get into Rav Shaya's year. And I think, maybe after this chag or after that chag, or if I do well over here, I'm going to get into Rav Shaya's year. So what's the magic of Rav Shaya's year? I can't really tell. But somehow, the clarity and the ability to make everything whole in a fragmented argument is really something that you have to see and experience to believe. It really is. And I'm privileged now to learn with Rav Shaya twice a week for many years by video, in addition to Chodesh Elul. And 40 years of learning with Rav Shaya, and I'm still the Talmud, and he's still the Rebbe, but I never get tired of it. And no matter how tired of it he may have gotten, he has at least the good grace never to say anything about it. The one thing I will add on a personal note is we're also zochet to have Rav Shaya visit us in Los Angeles, usually about 3 times a year. And my children heard that I was going to introduce Rabbi Shai, and they go, there's one thing you have to make sure of. He's going to be there in a public venue in front of a lot of people. I want you to be sure and take note how many people exactly is Rav Shaya. Because when he comes to our house, I have a kid up till 3 in the morning. He goes, yeah, I saw Rav Shaya. He was on the phone. He was working on something. And then he goes to bed. And then the other kid gets up at 6 in the morning and says, yeah, I saw Rav Shaya. He was on the phone. He was working on something. And then he was out all day. And I saw him over here. And they say, how many people is that? How many people do keep up that schedule? And Baruch Hashem, even now, 40 years later, I personally have not noticed any decrement in the energy, in the enthusiasm, in the vigor in which he carries the torch for the yeshiva, in every aspect of its functioning. So it's with great humility and personal satisfaction that I introduce Rabbi Karlinsky.
I'm not sure how you follow an introduction like that. I just want to mention that if we're celebrating 40 years of Darchei Noam, to acknowledge that the presence of Rabbi Yitzchak Feigenbaum, one of the originators and one of the founders of the yeshiva, who was with us. And we're so happy that he and his wife came from Toronto to join us. And much of what you see today, he certainly planted seeds and built the foundation for. On a certain level, it's a good thing I don't see the audience. I really was very upset. They turned off the lights. They're shining a spotlight in my face because it would be much too emotional, I think, for me to see all the alumni sitting in one place. And I'd really, very moving that you all came. And I don't see all of you right now, but thank you. Rabbi HIrshfeld really deserves the tribute. We'll be saying a few words now. But I want to start with, obviously, some words of Torah. We're now finishing 5 parshios that basically today have no relevance to anything in Judaism. The Nesiva Shalom, the Slonim Rebbe, asks this question. The Torah is so compact with whatever it teaches us. Halachas are learned out from one pasuk, from an extra word, from a juxtaposition. And here the Torah writes basically 4.5 parshios devoted to the Mishkan, which was the forerunner of the Beit HaMikdash, we could say. But at the end of the day, most of Jewish history, the majority of Jewish history was without a Mishkan and without a Mikdash. So why did the Torah spend so much bandwidth on this? So the answer, the general answer has to be the Medrash, that Nisave HaKadosh Baruch Hu Shielo Diurin Lamata, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world, he longed to have a place in the world that he created, the physical world that he created, that there should be a place for his infinite spirituality to also dwell. And the Kabbalists have a very big question. How is it possible for infinite HaKadosh Baruch Hu to have a world that's finite exist and not have HaKadosh Baruch Hu's infinite reality simply overwhelm that world? How could a finite world exist outside of HaKadosh Baruch Hu? And the Kabbalistic answer, and it's Kabbalah, we don't understand it, but we'll say the words, Tzimtzum. Somehow or other there was a withdrawal of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's infinite illumination to enable a world to exist. And if now we need to create a space in our world for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to exist, it also requires our tzimtzum. We also have to withdraw. And that's the phrase that comes up over and over again. We were introduced to it in Parshas Truma, and we saw it this past week's Parsha Vayakel Pekudei over and over and over again. Nediv lev, nedivus lev, kol ish asher nodva libo, nisa'o rucho. There's this concept of generosity, this concept of giving, this concept of withdrawing my ego and my selfishness and holding back things that are important to me and giving them to build the Mishkan, to build the Beis HaMikdash. The way to make space in our world for HaKadosh Baruch Hu is through generosity, is through giving, is through making space for something else. This idea that HaKadosh Baruch Hu had to make space for our world and we have to make space for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the secret of a good marriage is when a spouse makes space for the other. And great teachers make space for their students. enabling those students to grow, to become better of what they are, not trying to impose themselves and their agenda on their students. And Darchei Noam was a place that taught you how to let Hashem into your lives, and that, Baruch Hashem, you have built homes that have allowed HaKadosh Baruch Hu into that home and radiates that Kedusha that the Mishkan was supposed to represent. And the way that that happened was because we, as your educators, made space and made room for you in our lives, and we did not impose our agenda on you, but we helped you grow. And Rabbi HIrshfeld is the quintessential educator of selflessness, openness, nedivus lev, the giving of what he has, and nesias lev. The difference between nediv lev and nesias lev: nediv lev, I give what I have. I don't hold it back for myself. I'm not selfish. Nesias lev is I look to go beyond what I have. What can we give? And when we talk about truma to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, what can we give to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? HaKadosh Baruch Hu has everything. The only thing that we can give to HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the thing that's ours, and that's our ego, our selfishness, our resources. And Rabbi HIrshfeld represented that openness, that nedivus lev, always being there for everybody, open to the student, listening to you. And that is the secret of his success, how he has been zocha to educate 40 years of Talmidim and Talmidos. One of the kelim, one of the mysterious kelim in the Mishkan is the menorah. And the Medrash is bothered where Klal Yisrael, Moshe Rabbeinu, asks HaKadosh Baruch Hu, why do you need a menorah? Why do you need lamps and candles to illuminate? You are the Or Shel Olam. You are the illuminator of the world. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu's answer in the Lashon of the Medrash, Lo sha'ani tzarich lahem. I don't need the candles. Ela sheta'iru li kishem she'arti lachem. But I want you to illuminate for me the way I illuminated for you. And the Medrash gives a mashal. The mashal is a blind person being led by a seeing person. And the seeing person brings the blind person to the house. And then the seeing person tells the blind person, go light a candle, go light a lamp for me. And the blind person looks at him quite amazed. Why do you need me, the blind person, to light a lamp for you? You're a seeing person. And the answer is, says the seeing person, I want you to do something for me so that you aren't beholden to me. You need to express hakarat hatov. And it's kiviyochol, Hashem taught us that he wants us to illuminate for him, even though he doesn't need the illumination, so that we can express our hakarat hatov to HaKadosh Baruch Hu for that illumination. With Rabbi HIrshfeld's nediv lev, nesiat lev, with his big, huge heart, he does not need appreciation. He shies away from the appreciation. He does not need appreciation. We need to accord him that appreciation. And that's what we're here for. It's our responsibility, even though he doesn't need it or expect it. We need to be makir tov. I'm going to call on Rabbi HIrshfeld to present with him a book. We have dedicated the Pinat Noam, the alumni here in this book. You saw the online journal and the tremendous outpouring of Hakaras Hatov that is in the Pinat Noam, the corner, in the entry corner, that's going to be dedicated to Rabbi HIrshfeld with a phenomenal painting by alumnus Mario Braun. And that is our appreciation to him and your appreciation to him. And it's really, really appropriate. And I will express my personal appreciation. This book, with all of those beautiful ads that you all put in, and alumni who are not here, is true Hakaras Hatov. Thank you.
Wow. So I want to thank everybody who put so much work into producing this beautiful evening. The video, which was a bit too complimentary, almost to the point of embarrassment, but I'll be mochel you for that. The wonderful team with Avram Soslovich and Emuna, Diamond back in Israel, Michael Cohen, Jeremy Black, all the people who really put a lot of effort, of course led by Rabbi Shmuel Jablon, the administrative director. So thank you. And thank you all for coming. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you all for coming to express appreciation to the yeshiva, to which we owe so much for 40 years of accomplishment. And I must say that it really warms our hearts, Javi and myself, that you all have come to express your appreciation for us, that you are displaying to us personally, and also to the alumni honorees, the Neubauers and the Schoenfelds, and most importantly to the yeshiva, to which we all owe so much. What are we celebrating? On the one hand, we are looking to the past to see what we have accomplished and give thanks to the Ribbono Shel Olam for having allowed us to create a Mokum Torah, which has helped so many people, such as yourselves and the hundreds and hundreds of people around the world who are not with us today, those back in Eretz Yisrael, allowing all those people, all of you people, to build your Jewish homes, your Jewish lives, raising Jewish families in a way which makes us all so very, very proud. On the other hand, we must use the past as a guide to the future, because the idea of Darchei Noam, the idea of Chappelle's, of Midreshet Rachel, is so powerful that we have to do everything that we can do to ensure that the yeshiva at Midreshet Rachel and all of our programs continue for many, many years to come into the coming decades. Yes, I have retired from the position of Rosh Yeshiva, and I know that the announcements around this move have been the source of some confusion. I want to be clear. I have not yet resigned, have not resigned from the yeshiva. I have changed my role. Over the last couple of years, as I said in the video, it came clear to me that after so many decades, the time has come for introducing new, younger blood into the administration. New times bring new challenges, and these demand a fresh look and new initiatives. So at my initiative, I'm no longer part of the administration of the yeshiva. Instead, I've taken on greater teaching responsibilities while keeping a yeshiva schedule which is essentially the same as the schedule that I have kept for many, many years. Just ask my wife, Javi, if she says if I'm more available in the home than I used to be. Baruch Hashem, we have found the right person to step into this role. Rabbi David Schoonmaker, who is with us, his appointment is proving to be the most providential step in moving the yeshiva forward towards the future. 40 years. Chazal tell us that it takes 40 years for a person to be able to completely understand what his Rebbe has taught him. And it would seem that this is true for any attempt to see the grand sweep of events. 40 years give perspective. They help separate the truly meaningful from the fleeting, from the momentary. We're now in that transition period between Purim and Pesach. I'm sure that the housewives among us are well aware of this. Mishenichnas Adar marbim b'simcha. The Gemara tells us in Maseches Tainis that when Adar begins, it is a time of simcha. Rashi, and that Gemara in Maseches Tainis, Daf Chavtes, explains what is the source of the simcha of Mishenichnas Adar. Says Rashi, Yemei Nisim hayu b'Yisrael, Purim v'Pesach. These were days of miracles for the Jewish people, initiating the season of Purim and Pesach. We understand why Purim is mentioned. Mishenichnas Adar, Adar is the month of Purim. It's the Chodesh asher nepach lahem miyogon l'simcho me'eva l'yom tov. It was the month where there was a transition from sadness to joy and from mourning to a holiday. But why is Pesach figured into the equation? Perhaps the answer is Pesach is the beginning. It is Ahavas Klulosayich, as the Navi describes it. It is the beginning of the great love affair between HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Am Yisrael. Pesach's Megillah is Shir HaShirim, the song of the love of Ani L'Dodi V'Dodi Li. And this coming Shabbos, we'll be reading Parshas HaChodesh, the Parsha which is the introduction to the Geulas Mitzrayim, the Parsha which signifies the power of Chidush. But every Chidush has the potential to grow old and stale. What is our guarantee that the power of the relationship will not dissipate over the course of time? The Nisim of Purim, that Gilui of the Hester behind the mask of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's hiddenness of the Olam, serve to remind us that the relationship between us and HaKadosh Baruch Hu is so deep that even in our darkest moments, even when the love of HaKadosh Baruch Hu for Am Yisrael is not apparent, even in those times, our relation lives on eternally. As the Megillah says, V'zichram lo yasuf mitoch zaram. Reb Chaim Volozhiner teaches that Chidush is not necessarily an idea that no one has thought of before. When we understand something more deeply, when we see connections previously unnoticed, this too is Chidush. We approach the renewed connection of Nisan with stronger appreciation of how deeply that connection really is when we follow Nisan. It's when it follows the holidays of Purim. I was born a few short years after the Holocaust, when many were pessimistic about the possibility of rebuilding Torah anywhere in the world after the horrible destruction of the masses of Jewry, with it the greatest Talmidei Chachamim and leaders of the generation. And I came to maturity when it was a time when the Jewish future of many assimilated and partially assimilated families was almost considered to be hopeless. But then the power of Chidush took over. I view myself and my colleagues as being a bridge between the great Olam HaTorah of earlier generations and our Talmidim. My Rebbeim were mostly European-born, native Yiddish speakers who themselves had learned under the greatest of the great Rosh Yeshivas of pre-World War II Europe. There are a few who I would like to mention, single out, as having made the greatest impression upon me, and hopefully, through me, to you, the Talmidim and the Talmidos. Harbe kibalti me rabosai. I received a tremendous amount from my Rebbeim. In the Skokie Yeshiva, where I spent 8 very good years, I had excellent Rebbeim. It was the Novominsker Rebbe, Harav Yaakov Perlo Shlita, who introduced the ideas of his Rosh Yeshiva, Rabbi Yitzchak Hutner, Zichron Levracha, into our young lives. Indeed, I recall that it was Dafka, his drasha, Rabbi Perlo's drasha, given at the Purim Suda in the Skokie Yeshiva, sometimes in the mid-60s, I don't remember exactly which year it was, which focused on the Gilui of the Hester of Megillas Esther. And that revelatory drasha, that shiur, filled me with a kind of simcha that I had not experienced before. And when in 1969 I had decided to come to Eretz Yisrael to learn, it was the Novominsker who suggested that the Mir Yeshiva in Yerushalayim would be the most suitable choice. When I arrived at Mir, I was zoche to encounter 2 of the greatest of the generation, Reb Chaim Shmulevitz, Zecher Tzaddik Livrocha, and Reb Nachum Pertzovitz, Zecher Tzaddik Livrocha. For me, what I could glean from Reb Chaim was that he was a master of taking simple-sounding psukim and Mamorei Chazal, and through them, he was mechadesh deep Torah lessons relating to the human condition with unparalleled sensitivity. With Reb Nachum, I can't begin to express the debt that I owe to him. He gave me the gift of the Gilui of the Hester of a Daf Gemara. In later years, Reb Moshe Shapiro, Zecher Tzaddik Livrocha, touched my neshama with his koach chiddush. Moreover, Aboisai, I must tell you that I am miktane hatalmidim of these giants. But tonight, what matters is that they touched my neshama. Their Torah gave and continues to give me a very, very special simcha, which I hope that in some measure I've succeeded in transmitting to my talmidim. Sometimes we hear a vort, and upon reflection it seems very predictable. But with them, there always seems to be a chiddush. Their line of reasoning always leads to conclusions that are different from anything that we would have anticipated. At this time, I'd like to make honorable mention of one of our early Rebbeim and mentors, Reb Zev Chaim Lifshitz, who was a strong force in the early formative years of the yeshiva. He was a most talented educational psychologist, and his insights into the processes of teaching and learning are at the heart of much of the educational philosophy from which so many of you benefited so greatly. More so than I learned from my Rebbeim, as Chazal teach us, from my Rebbeim, I learned from my Chaverim. It is a fact that I've always been blessed with great chavrusas. I'll take this opportunity to mention Rabbi Yitzchak Feigenbaum, who is here from Toronto, who came with his wife to honor us here, who was one of my chavrusas in the Mir Yeshiva. But especially, I want to single out my chavrusa of many decades, Rabbi Karlinsky. Our relationship as friends and chavrusas began as bochrim back in the Mir Yeshiva in 1970. It was Baba Metzia's man, for those of you who want to know the details. Together for decades, we worked together, we uncovered and developed methodologies of learning and teaching that became the foundation and mainstay of our learning and teaching at Chappelle's. However, umi talmidai yoser mikulam. You talmidim are the ones who have done me the great chesed of listening, questioning, giving me the opportunity to speak divrei Torah and gain clarity. Chaim hi lemotzi'echem bepeh. The Torah gives life to those who speak out the words of Torah. I know that many of you here feel that your Rabbeim have given you the gift of life. The truth is, however, that we have given each other the gift of life. I've been relating now so far to my role as Rosh Rebbe and teacher. How do I look back upon my role as Rosh Yeshiva? I can't express how great the zchus was to be the head of a staff of such remarkable people. Some of them are bigger Talmidei Chachamim than I, some better pedagogues, some more dedicated to the Talmidim. And I'm speaking of generations of Rebbeim, Es asher yeshno po, ves asher einenu po hayom. Only Hashem knows what zchus I had to merit this. But I've always felt that my role was to be the first among equals. Somebody had to sit at the head of the table. Somebody had to make the final decisions. And the Hashgacha chose me. But another question begs to be asked. How do we succeed in melding such a diverse group of highly talented and opinionated people into a staff that can work together in unison and harmony? Here, I would like to mention one of Reb Chaim Shmulevitz's most well-known yesodos. Shisha miskasin betalis echad. 6 people can cover themselves with one talis. How does it happen? So Reb Chaim explains that when each individual pulls the talis in his own direction, no one gets covered. But if everybody is worried that the other person is going to be covered, then everyone gets covered. In our yeshiva, with many types of Rebbeim, each with his unique message, there's a danger of each trying to pull the blanket of hashpah towards himself. But the level of respect that prevails among the Rebbeim leads us all to try to make sure that the others have their opportunity for hashpah as well. When everyone grabs, in the end, no one has. And when everyone gives, then everyone has. But above all, Talmidim, you are our heroes. Perhaps the reason that I so much enjoy and have enjoyed and continue to enjoy working with you is precisely the point that I made before. The chiddush of rebirth after darkness. For most of you, your winding up being a student at Chappelle's or MRC was just about the most unreasonable thing that could have happened. It was literally a case of tzei mi'etztigninus shalacha. You were able to reach deep down into your neshamos, and this gave you the ability to live your lives in a way which can only be seen as a manifestation of the divine plan to bring all the neshamos back to Him. I'd just like to mention an anecdote. One of the features that makes, I believe, Chappelle's great. We have, L'Ayin Hara, a 17-year-old grandson, Bensi Zaks, the son of our daughter Michal and her husband Yossi, and he's learning in a Shir Aleph of a prominent yeshiva in Yerushalayim. 17 years ago, it was to be hoped for and not be surprising that he would be in a very good yeshiva and doing well. But it was not so predictable that Raphael Lubinsky, the son of one of our honorary couples in Israel, Baruch and Tammy Lubinsky, would be at the same yeshiva and that they would become good friends and chavrusas. So you are all our honorees, each of you who is raising a Torah family and the principles we have tried to transmit, the primary principles of Torah, Avodah, and Gemilas Chasadim, while giving voice to a multiplicity of approaches on matters of secondary hashkafa. Some of you are Haredi, some more modern, some with advanced degrees and professional degrees, some are Klei Kodesh, but all are focused on the center point, the Mishkan, with the presence of the Shekhinah at the center. Just another anecdote. I'm reminded when we go back 40 years to the first day when our yeshiva opened. We had 3 Rebbeim, Rabbi Karlinsky, myself, and Rabbi Feigemam, I think today is one of the first times the three of us are all in the same room at the same time for a long time. But 40 years ago, a long time ago, I still remember our opening meeting at the Feigenbaum's kitchen where we decided to open the yeshiva. And the 6 of us were there, three of us with our wives, and did a rather foolhardy thing. I was the oldest of the group at age 30 at that time. And I still remember the opening day. When we opened the yeshiva, it was Elul, with 3 Rabbeim and 2 Talmidim. One of the Talmidim, I know for sure who it was Reb Shmuel Rosen, Zichrono Livrocha, who was to become an outstanding Limudei Kodesh teacher at the Yeshiva Central Queens. The other is a little bit of a machlokus between me and Rabbi Karlinsky, right? So I'm not going to get into the possibilities, but there were 2, okay? And anyway, as we were using the neighborhood shul in Sanhedrin Merchevet as the place of the yeshiva, some of the local balabatim came in to join our opening day ceremony. One of them looked around at the minuscule enrollment and said, "Shvacha Maisis." I remember to this day, Kodesh Baruch Hu put some words in my mouth. I replied with the pasuk, "Hazorim bedima berina yiktzoru." And I thank Hashem for having put this tefillah and mini prophecy into my mouth. Before I close, it's my honor and privilege to express my hakaras hatov to my friend, chavrusa, and partner of 48 years, Reb Shaya. None of what I have expressed would have been possible without his accepting achrayus for the growth and development of the yeshiva, both in Ruchnius and especially in Gashmius. Reb Chaim Shmulevitz Zatzal would say that the midah of achrayus is the hallmark of leadership. Reb Shaya has accepted upon himself the yoke of the financial burden of the yeshiva. And I know better than anyone else how much he has buried his ego and risen to heights of Mesiras Nefesh for Darchei Noam institutions. We can only give him a bracha. Yarich Hashem es mamlachto mitoch briyut hanefesh u'briyut haguf. And may he continue to lead Darchei Noam institutions with vigor and vision for many, many years to come. And achrona chaviva, I want to express my hakaras hatov and appreciation for my Ishes Chayil Chavi, who stands by my side at all times to enable me to devote our energies to our avodas hakodesh. Many of you have become close to her over the years, but still she is mostly a behind-the-scenes person. Her wise counsel, her unbending dedication to emes, consistently helped me remain true to our most cherished values. I can tell you all that I am who I am because of her. She is raising our children and now our grandchildren with warmth, compassion, honesty, and sensitivity. Isha Yarat Hashem hi titalal. May Hashem grant us together good health and continued nachas from our biological children and biological and spiritual children and grandchildren. Finally, I express my hakaras hatov to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who has exquisitely orchestrated my life to enable me to do the most meaningful work on this earth. May he continue to give me the opportunity lilmod lilamed lishmor lasot l'kayem et kol divrei Talmud Toratecha bi'ahava, and I might add with simcha. Ken yehi ratzon.